Did you know Elvis Presley hadn't had a #1 hit in America for 7 years before this song? 7 years. An eternity in pop music. He went from the king of rock and roll to the star of B-list movie musicals. His career was seen as a nostalgia act. Then, in 1969, a 3-minute and 37-second recording changed everything. It wasn't just a hit, it was a statement. A masterpiece of production, arrangement, and raw human emotion. But how? How does one song achieve so much? Is it just the voice? Or is there something deeper, something technical, baked into its very DNA? What if the song's power comes, not from one single element, but from 19 different points of technical brilliance all working together? What if a producer's mistake, a songwriter's personal pain, and a group of studio musicians hitting their stride all converge to create something perfect? Let's look at the machinery behind the magic. Number 19, why does a career depend on a single song? The context of a song matters. Its creation doesn't happen in a vacuum. For Suspicious Minds, the context was everything. The song was recorded in January 1969. To understand its importance, you have to look at the year before. After years of making formulaic movies and recording their lackluster soundtracks, he was creatively adrift. Colonel Tom Parker, his manager, had booked a Christmas television special with NBC. The initial concept was a bland, traditional holiday show. But the producer, Steve Binder, saw an opportunity. He saw the raw, charismatic performer buried under the Hollywood sheen. Binder pushed Elvis. He encouraged him to reconnect with his rock and roll roots. The result was the '68 Comeback Special. Aired on December 3rd, 1968, it was a cultural event. Elvis, clad in black leather, was electric. He was dangerous again. Music critic Jon Landau, who would later manage Bruce Springsteen, wrote in I Magazine that it is the finest music of his life. If there is ever any justice, he will be embraced by the people of his generation. The special was a massive critical and commercial success. It put Elvis back on the map. But it also created immense pressure. The comeback wasn't complete. He needed a hit record, a real one. One that could compete with the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and the psychedelic sounds coming out of San Francisco. His last #1 single in the US was Good Luck Charm in 1962. His recent singles had stalled in the lower reaches of the charts. The comeback on television was one thing. A comeback on the radio, in the charts, was another. This is the weight Suspicious Minds carried. It wasn't just another track on an album. It was the validation of the comeback. It was proof that the fire seen on TV wasn't a fluke. It was the sound of an artist reclaiming his throne. Every technical element we will discuss was amplified by this high-stakes environment. The desperation in Elvis's voice wasn't just acting, it was the sound of a man fighting for his legacy. The song's success wasn't just about sales figures, it was about cultural relevance. It cemented the '68 Comeback Special as a genuine artistic rebirth, not just a nostalgic look back. But what if the Comeback Special had flopped? Would Suspicious Minds even exist, or would it be an unheard demo on a dusty shelf? If he had recorded it in 1965, would anyone have cared? How much of a masterpiece is defined not by its content, but by its timing? Number 18, Can a Room Have a Sound? Before 1969, Elvis recorded primarily at RCA's Studio B in Nashville. It was a legendary room, but by the late 60s, the process had become sterile and predictable. The musicians were top-notch, but the arrangements were often formulaic, designed to fit the movie soundtracks. For his post-comeback sessions, Elvis, at the urging of his producers, went somewhere different. He went to American Sound Studio in Memphis, his hometown. The studio was run by producer Chips Moman. Moman was a renegade. He had left Stax Records to build his own empire. American Sound Studio wasn't slick or corporate. It was a gritty, soulful place, and it had a house band. They were known as the Memphis Boys. This band consisted of guitarist Reggie Young, bassist Tommy Cogbill, drummer Gene Chrisman, pianist Bobby Wood, and organist Bobby Emmons. Between 1967 and 1972, this group played on an astonishing 122 hit records. They backed Dusty Springfield on Son of a Preacher Man, Neil Diamond on Sweet Caroline, and the Box Tops on The Letter. They had a sound, it was funky, tight, and soulful, a blend of country, R&B, and rock. When Elvis walked into American Sound in January 1969, he wasn't just walking into a different building. He was walking into a different musical ecosystem. Chips Moman's production style was the opposite of the polished Nashville sound. He encouraged collaboration and improvisation. He wanted feel over perfection. The sound of Suspicious Minds is inseparable from the sound of that room and those players. The raw energy, the driving rhythm, the way the instruments lock together, that is the sound of the Memphis Boys in their element, produced by a man who knew how to capture lightning in a bottle. As detailed in Robin Jones's book, Memphis Boys, The Story of American Sound Studio, Moman's approach was to cut the track live with the whole band, including Elvis singing, to capture a singular performance. This was a radical departure from the overdub-heavy Nashville method Elvis had grown accustomed to. The song was a masterpiece partly because it was recorded in a place that had its own masterpiece sound. But what if Elvis had stayed in Nashville? Could the Nashville A-Team have produced the same grit and desperation? Does a physical location hold a memory of the music made there, influencing everything that comes after? How much of the song's soul belongs to a building on Thomas Street in Memphis? Number 17, how can a song change its heartbeat? Most pop songs live and die by a consistent rhythm. A steady 4/4 time signature is the backbone of rock and roll. It's predictable. You can tap your foot to it. It's the sound of 4 beats to a measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Suspicious Minds starts this way. The verse is a driving, tense 4/4. The bass and drums push it forward relentlessly. It creates a feeling of anxiety, of being trapped, which perfectly matches the lyrics. But then something extraordinary happens in the bridge section, the part that starts with "Oh, let our love survive." The entire song shifts. The time signature changes from 4/4 to a waltz like 6/8 time. The feel becomes slower, more open, more epic. It's a moment of musical release. The frantic heartbeat of the verse gives way to a sweeping emotional plea. This is incredibly rare in a #1 pop hit. As music theorist Alan Moore notes in his book Song Means Analyzing and Interpreting Recorded Popular Song, such metric shifts risk disorienting the listener. They can, break the groove. But here, it does the opposite. It elevates the song's emotional arc. The shift from the claustrophobic 4/4 to the soaring 6/8 mirrors, the lyrical shift from paranoia to a desperate hope for salvation. And then, just as suddenly, after the bridge, it slams back into 4/4 for the ride out. The effect is breathtaking. It's a piece of sophisticated musical arrangement hidden inside a pop song. This wasn't an accident, it was a deliberate choice by the songwriter, Mark James, and brilliantly executed by the Memphis Boys. Drummer Gene Chrisman's ability to navigate these changes seamlessly is a masterclass in feeling control. This technical choice is a core reason the song feels like an epic journey rather than just a simple verse-chorus tune. It gives the song a dynamic range that most pop hits lack. But why does this shift feel so natural and not jarring? Is our emotional response to music so tied to rhythm that a change in time signature can physically alter our mood? What if the song had stayed in 4/4 the entire time? Would it still be a classic, or just another good song? Number 16, why does a mistake feel so, right? One of the most iconic and debated parts of Suspicious Minds is its ending. The song plays out with Elvis ad-libbing, the band vamping, and then it begins to fade. The listener assumes the song is over. This was a standard technique in 1960s radio. Songs were faded out to fit time constraints, but about 10 seconds into the fade, something strange happens. The song fades, back in. It comes roaring back to full volume for another 30 seconds of pure, unadulterated energy before fading out for good. This was not the original plan. According to legend, and confirmed in multiple interviews with the people involved, this was the result of a conflict between the producer Chips Moman and RCA's producer Felton Jarvis. Moman had a specific vision for the song's epic, live-sounding ending. When Jarvis took the tapes back to Nashville, he instructed the engineer to do a standard radio fade. Moman, who happened to be in Nashville, heard about this. He reportedly stormed into the studio, pushed the engineer aside, and pushed the faders back up, creating the now famous false fade. He felt the premature fade killed the spirit of the performance. This mistake, or act of production sabotage, became a crucial part of the song's identity. From a psychoacoustic perspective, it works brilliantly. As explained in Daniel J. Levitin's book, This Is Your Brain on Music, our brains are prediction machines. We anticipate patterns, the fade-out signals an ending. When the music returns unexpectedly, it violates that prediction, creating a jolt of surprise and pleasure. It's a trick that grabs your attention, On the radio in 1969, it made listeners think the DJ was messing with the record, forcing them to listen even more intently. It transformed a standard pop song, ending into a moment of high drama. What began as a dispute between two producers ended up as a stroke of unintentional genius. But was it truly an accident or a calculated move by Momin to create a memorable hook? How many other mistakes in classic songs are actually intentional acts of creative rebellion? Does the story behind the sound make the sound itself more powerful? And number 15, what is a bass line's real job? The bass guitar is often the unsung hero of a song. Its job is to bridge the gap between rhythm and harmony. A good bass line makes you want to move. A great bass line tells its own story. The bass line in Suspicious Minds, played by the legendary Tommy Cogbill, is a great bass line. From the very first notes, it's not just holding down the low end, it's a melodic, propulsive force. Cogbill doesn't just play the root notes of the chords, he plays a busy, syncopated line that weaves in and out of the vocal melody. It's almost a counter melody. This technique, central to the Memphis soul sound, creates a sense of constant motion. It makes the song feel like it's pulling you forward, even in its quieter moments. In the 2013 documentary, The Memphis Boys, the other musicians talk about Cogbill's playing with a sense of awe. He had a unique ability to be incredibly complex and perfectly in the pocket at the same time. His playing on Suspicious Minds is a perfect example. During the verses, the bass line is restless and agitated, mirroring the lyrical paranoia. During the soaring 6/8 bridge, it becomes simpler, more foundational, giving the strings and vocals space to breathe. Then, in the famous Ride Out, it becomes the song's engine, driving everything with its relentless, repeating riff. The emotional power of that final section is carried on the back of Cogbill's bass. It's a performance of incredible dynamics and taste. It elevates the song from a simple pop structure to a complex rhythmic tapestry. Why don't more pop songs use the bass as a lead melodic instrument? Can a single instrument's performance fundamentally change the emotional meaning of a lyric? If you listen to only the bass line of Suspicious Minds, what story would it tell? Number 14, how do you build a wall of sound without a wall? The production on Suspicious Minds is dense and layered. You have drums, bass, multiple guitars, piano, organ, a full string and horn section, and layers of backing vocals. Yet, it never sounds muddy. Every instrument has its own space. This is a testament to the brilliance of Chips Moman's production and the engineering at American Sound. A key technical aspect is the stereo imaging. If you listen to the song on good headphones, you can hear how the instruments are carefully placed across the stereo field. The main rhythm section is generally centered, providing a solid foundation, but other elements are panned to the left and right. For example, Reggie Young's distinctive electric sitar-like guitar part is often pushed to one side, while the horns or strings answer from the other. This creates a wide panoramic soundscape. This technique was becoming more sophisticated in the late 1960s as stereo LPs replaced mono as the dominant format. Producers were learning to use the stereo field as a creative tool, not just a way to separate instruments. In Suspicious Minds, the panning creates a call and response effect between the different instrumental layers. It makes the arrangement feel like a conversation. This is particularly effective during the outro. As Elvis ad-libs, "Don't you know I'm caught in a trap, the horns might swell on the right," answered by a string line on the left, all while the backing vocals surround him. This creates a sense of being enveloped by the music, enhancing the lyrical theme of being trapped. The clarity of the mix allows the listener to pick out individual performances, yet it all combines into one powerful whole. It's a masterclass in using studio technology to serve the song's emotional narrative. How did producers in 1969, with relatively primitive mixing consoles compared to today, achieve such clarity and separation? Does our modern obsession with perfect digital mixes lose some of the character of these old analog recordings? Is there a lost art to stereo placement in the age of single-speaker listening on phones? Number 13, can hope and despair sing at the same time? The backing vocals on Suspicious Minds are not just background texture, they are a character in the drama. They're performed by members of the Sweet Inspirations along with vocalists Donna Jean Godchos and Mary Holiday. They serve as a Greek chorus, commenting on and amplifying Elvis's lead vocal. Their arrangement is a key technical component of the song's power. During the verses, they are relatively restrained, offering simple, supportive harmonies. This allows the focus to remain on Elvis's tense, paranoid delivery, but as the song builds, their role expands. In the bridge, their soaring oohs and ahs provide the angelic, hopeful counterpoint to Elvis's desperate plea. It's a classic call and response. Elvis sings a line, and the backing vocalists answer, creating a dynamic interplay that builds the emotional stakes. The most powerful moment comes in the song's final section. As Elvis repeatedly sings, "We can't go on together with suspicious minds," the backing vocalists sing a completely different, rising melodic line behind him. This use of counterpoint is brilliant. You have two distinct melodic ideas happening at the same time. And Elvis's line is repetitive, grounded, and stuck in the trap. The backing vocal line is ascending, lifting, and trying to escape. This musical tension perfectly embodies the song's core conflict: the desire to leave versus the desire to stay. The two vocal parts are fighting each other, yet they harmonize perfectly. This sophisticated vocal arrangement, likely crafted by Chips Moman and the singers themselves in the studio, adds a layer of musical and emotional complexity that sets the song apart. Are the backing vocalists supposed to be the voice of reason, the partner's perspective, or an internal voice of hope? How much of the final arrangement was planned versus improvised in the heat of the moment? Could the song work with a single solo voice? Number 12, why does the guitar not sound like a guitar? One of the most distinctive instrumental hooks in Suspicious Minds is the wiry, trebly guitar line that answers Elvis's vocal phrases in the verses. It doesn't sound like a standard electric guitar. It has a sharp, almost sitar-like quality. This sound was created by session guitarist Reggie Young. He was the lead guitarist for the Memphis Boys, and his playing defined countless hits. For this session, he was likely using a Fender guitar played through a specific amplifier, and possibly with some studio effects to get that unique tone. Some sources claim he was playing a Danelectro choral sitar, a type of electric guitar designed to mimic the sound of a sitar, which had been popularized in Western pop music by the Beatles. Whatever the exact equipment, the choice of this specific guitar tone was a stroke of genius. The sound is exotic and slightly jarring. It cuts through the mix and adds to the feeling of anxiety and unease. You know, it's not a comforting, warm guitar sound. It's the sound of frayed nerves. Its placement in the arrangement is also crucial. It functions in a call and response pattern with the vocal. Elvis sings a line, and Reggie Young's guitar answers with a short, sharp riff. This musical dialogue fills the space and heightens the tension. It's another layer of the conversation happening within the song. This sound, so specific to the late 1960s, instantly dates the record in one sense, but also gives it a timeless, unique sonic signature. It's a technical choice that directly impacts the listener's emotional response, making the paranoia of the lyrics feel audible. What other instruments could have filled that space, and why wouldn't they have worked as well? How much did the popularization of Indian music by artists like George Harrison influence a session player in Memphis? Is a unique instrumental tone as important as a vocal hook? Number 11. How can a voice be both powerful and fragile? And Elvis Presley's vocal performance on Suspicious Minds is widely regarded as one of the greatest of his career. The technical control he exhibits is staggering. The song requires a huge dynamic range, and he navigates it flawlessly. He starts the verses in a low, restrained baritone. There's a quiet intensity, a simmering anger just below the surface. You can hear the control in his breath. He's holding back. But as the song progresses into the pre-bridge and bridge, he opens up his voice, pushing into his powerful upper register. The line, "Oh, let our love survive," is sung with a full-throated, operatic passion. It's a moment of pure emotional release. But it's not just about power, it's about vulnerability. You can hear the strain, the desperation in his voice. There's a slight rasp, a raw edge that makes the performance feel incredibly real. A 2014 study published in the journal PLOS OWN by musicologists at the University of Hamburg analyzed the emotional cues in singing. They found that variations in pitch, volume, and timbre, the tonal quality of the voice, are key signifiers of emotion. Elvis uses all of these tools. His pitch soars, his volume swells, and his timbre shifts from smooth and controlled to rough and desperate. He also uses a masterful falsetto in his ad-libs during the ride-out, showcasing yet another color in his vocal palette. It's not just singing notes, it's inhabiting a character. It is a technically perfect performance that feels completely raw and spontaneous. Is it possible to separate the technical skill from the raw emotion, or are they inextricably linked? How many takes did it take to capture this performance, and were the earlier takes more restrained or even more chaotic? Was Elvis drawing on his own life experiences with Priscilla at the time, and can we hear that in the grain of his voice? Number 10, is there a formula for tension and release? The structure of Suspicious Minds is unconventional for a pop song. Most hits from that era followed a simple verse, chorus, bridge, chorus structure. The chorus is the big payoff, the part everyone sings along to. Suspicious Minds doesn't really have a chorus. The section that repeats, "We can't go on together with Suspicious Minds," functions more like a refrain or a tagline at the end of the verse. The real musical and emotional hook of the song is the bridge, "Oh Let Our Love Survive," or "Dry the Tears from Your Eyes." This is the part with the time signature change in the soaring melody. By denying the listener a traditional repetitive chorus, the song builds an unusual amount of tension. The verses create a problem, a sense of claustrophobia, but there's no easy sing-along release. The release is delayed until the bridge, making it that much more powerful when it finally arrives. Musicologist Walter Everett, in his book The Foundations of Rock, discusses how rock songwriters often manipulate standard song forms to create specific emotional effects. Mark James, the songwriter, did exactly that. The structure mirrors the lyrical content. The feeling of being caught in a trap is musically represented by a structure that refuses to give you the easy escape of a big chorus. You have to wait. You have to go through the tension of the verses to earn the release of the bridge. This makes the song a journey. It has a narrative arc built into its very bones. The final section, the long ride out, or coda, functions as a third act where the tension and release happen over and over again, finally exhausting itself into the fade. Why did a song with such an unusual structure become a #1 hit? Does the lack of a traditional chorus force the listener to pay more attention to the lyrics and the performance? How many hit songs have been written that intentionally break the rules of pop songwriting? Number 9. How do you make an orchestra rock? The string and horn arrangements, written by Glenn Spreen, are a fundamental part of the song's epic scale. In many rock and pop songs of the era, orchestral arrangements were often an afterthought, a layer of sweetening added to make the song sound more important. On Suspicious Minds, the orchestra is an integral part of the band. The arrangement is not just a pad of sound in the background. It is dynamic and interactive. The horns, for example, play sharp, percussive stabs that punctuate the rhythm. They add to the song's aggression and drive. Listen to how they answer Elvis's vocal lines in the final section. It's a powerful, punchy sound that feels more like Stax Records than a Hollywood film score. The strings, on the other hand, provide the emotional sweep. During the 6/8 bridge, they swell and soar, lifting the song to an almost cinematic level. Spreen's arrangement uses counter melody brilliantly. The strings don't just play the chords, they play their own melodic lines that weave around the vocal. This adds a layer of harmonic richness and complexity. The genius of the arrangement is how it combines the raw energy of the Memphis rhythm section with the grandeur of an orchestra without either one overpowering the other. The two elements coexist, creating a sound that is both gritty and epic, soulful and symphonic. This fusion of styles was something Chips Moman and his team at American Sound were masters of, but Suspicious Minds is perhaps their crowning achievement in this regard. Could the song have been a hit with just the core band without the strings and horns? How much collaboration was there between the arranger, the producer, and the musicians in creating these parts? Does the presence of an orchestra automatically elevate a song's perceived artistic merit? Number 8, what is the sound of a story? The lyrics of Suspicious Minds, written by Mark James, are a masterclass in simplicity and universality. The song tells a clear story of a relationship being destroyed by mistrust. The language is direct and plain. Why can't you see what you're doing to me when you don't believe a word I say? There are no clever metaphors or obscure poetic references. This directness is a key to its power. It's a conversation we've all had, or at least imagined having. The lyrical structure mirrors the musical structure in its buildup of tension. The verses lay out the problem, the feeling of being trapped. The bridge offers a desperate plea for a solution. The final ride out is the emotional explosion, the point where the argument can't be contained anymore. James has said the song was inspired by his own feelings at the time. He was married but still had feelings for his childhood sweetheart, and he was tormented by the feeling of being caught between two loves. This genuine personal emotion is baked into the lyrics. The phrase "caught in a trap" is a perfect, concise summary of the emotional state. It's a powerful image that resonates with anyone who has felt stuck in a situation they can't escape. The lyrics are not just words on a page, they are the blueprint for the entire emotional journey of the recording. Every musical and production choice, from the driving bass line to the desperate vocal, is designed to serve this lyrical narrative. Are the lyrics from the man's perspective, the woman's, or are they intentionally universal? What is the trap exactly? Is it the relation, the suspicion itself, or something else entirely? Could the song have been written from the perspective of the suspicious partner and still have the same impact? Number 7, how much energy can you fit into 30 seconds? The final section of the song, after the false fade, is arguably its most famous part. This coda, or ride out, is where all the song's elements converge in a frantic, joyful explosion. It's technically a vamp on the main chord progression, but it feels like so much more. Elvis's vocal performance becomes completely uninhibited. He ad-libs, whoops, and sings with a raw power that is breathtaking. He is no longer just singing the song, he is living it. The band locks into a relentless groove. Gene Chrisman's drumming is particularly noteworthy here. He drives the beat with powerful fills and cymbal crashes, pushing the energy level higher and higher. The horns and strings are no longer just supporting elements. They are shouting along with the rest of the band. The backing vocalists create a wall of sound. It's the sound of a band and a singer completely in sync, pushing each other to the limit. In his book, Mystery Train Images of America in Rock and Roll Music, Greil Marcus describes this section as a moment of pure liberation. It's the sound of escaping the trap. The musical tension built up over the previous 3 minutes is finally released in this cathartic finale. This section was a staple of Elvis's live performances of the song, often extended for many minutes as he would karate kick his way across the stage. The recorded version captures the essence of that live energy perfectly. It's a moment of controlled chaos, a technical marvel of performance and arrangement that leaves the listener breathless. Was this extended outro planned from the beginning, or did it emerge from a studio jam? How do musicians maintain such a high level of intensity and precision at the same time? Is this the most cathartic ending in pop music history? Number 6. Can a producer be a co-author? The role of a producer in a recording is often misunderstood. They are not just technicians, they are visionaries. Chips Moman's role in the creation of Suspicious Minds cannot be overstated. He was, in many ways, the song's co-author. It was Moman who found the song. The songwriter, Mark James, was a staff writer for Moman's publishing company. James had recorded and released his own version of Suspicious Minds in 1968, but it was not a hit. Moman believed in the song and pitched it to Elvis. During the recording session, Moman was the director. He shaped the arrangement with the band, pushing them for the right feel. He coached Elvis's vocal, encouraging the raw, emotional delivery. His production philosophy was about capturing a performance, not manufacturing one. The Sound of American Sound Studio was his sound. The tight, funky rhythm section, the blend of horns and strings, the raw vocal, these were all hallmarks of his production style. The story of the false fade-out is the ultimate example of his authorial control. He literally fought to have the song end his way. He understood that the power of the song was in its dynamic build and its explosive release, and he refused to let a conventional radio fade ruin that. Without Chips Moman's vision, Suspicious Minds might have been just another well-sung album track. He heard the masterpiece inside Mark James's demo and knew how to bring it to life with Elvis and the Memphis Boys. How much credit should a producer receive for a hit record? Is it possible for an artist to be truly great without a great producer? What would Suspicious Minds have sounded like if it had been produced by the more conservative Felton Jarvis in Nashville? At number 5, how do you make a studio feel live? One of the most remarkable technical aspects of Suspicious Minds is that it feels like a live performance. It has an energy and a spontaneity that is often lost in the sterile environment of a recording studio. This was a deliberate result of Chips Moman's recording method, as documented by Peter Guralnick in his Elvis biography, Careless Love, The Unmaking of Elvis Presley. The sessions at American Sound were a world away from the rigid procedures of RCA. Moman had the entire band, the Memphis Boys, set up in one room playing together. Crucially, Elvis was in the room with them singing a live guide vocal. This allowed the musicians to react to his performance in real time. They could feel his energy, respond to his phrasing, and lock into his groove. This is why the rhythm section feels so connected to the vocal. They weren't just playing to a pre-recorded track, they were creating the music together. This method also captured a certain amount of bleed, where the sound from one microphone leaks into another. While modern recording often seeks to eliminate bleed for maximum control, Moman used it to his advantage. It created a sense of space and togetherness, making the recording sound like it was happening in a real room, not in a series of isolated booths. The energy you hear in the final ride out is the sound of musicians and a singer pushing each other in the same physical space at the same moment. It's a technical approach that prioritizes feel over clinical perfection. Could a song with this much energy be created using modern digital recording techniques where each musician records their part separately? Does the physical proximity of musicians during a recording session create a measurable difference in the final product? How much of the magic of old records is simply the sound of people in a room? Number 4, what does it mean to reclaim a sound? Suspicious Minds represented more than just a musical comeback for Elvis. It was a sonic homecoming. The song is steeped in the sounds of Memphis, the city where Elvis's career began. He started at Sun Records, blending country and R&B to create rock and roll. Over the years, especially during his movie career, his music had moved away from these roots. It became more polished, more pop-oriented, and less soulful. Recording at American Sound Studio with the Memphis Boys was a conscious return to the Memphis sound. The rhythm section's deep, funky groove is pure Memphis R&B. The punchy horns are reminiscent of the Stax Volt sound. The raw, soulful vocal performance is Elvis reconnecting with the blues and gospel music he grew up on. This was not a nostalgic recreation of his 1950s sound. It was a modern, updated version of it. It was Elvis integrating the sounds of late 60s Memphis soul into his own style. The result was a record that sounded both completely contemporary and authentically Elvis. It proved that he wasn't just a 1950s icon, he was a vital, relevant artist who could still tap into the musical currents of his time. The song is a technical masterpiece, partly because it is a perfect synthesis of an artist's personal history and a city's musical identity. Why was Memphis such a crucible for American music in the 1960s? Can an artist ever truly escape the sound of their hometown? If Elvis had been from Chicago or Detroit, how different would his music have been? Number 3, why is imperfection sometimes perfect? While Elvis's vocal on Suspicious Minds is a technical tour de force, its true power lies in its imperfections. It is not a smooth, flawless, auto-tune performance, it is a human performance. You can hear the breath he takes before a big line. You can hear the slight rasp in his voice as he pushes for a high note. In the final ad-libs, his voice cracks with emotion. These are the moments that make the performance so believable. In a 2011 study on vocal expression in the Journal of Voice, researchers found that listeners often perceive imperfect vocalizations, such as cracking or breathiness, as more emotionally authentic than technically perfect singing. These imperfections signal a loss of control, a moment where pure emotion overrides technical precision. Elvis was a master of this. He knew when to sing perfectly and when to let the emotion take over. The final minute of Suspicious Minds is filled with these moments. His shouts of "Don't you know" and his desperate repetition of the title phrase feel completely spontaneous and raw. These are not mistakes, they are choices. They are the sound of an artist willing to be vulnerable, to sacrifice polished perfection for the sake of emotional truth. It's this raw humanity that connects with the listener on a deep primal level. In an age of pitch correction software, have we lost our appreciation for the beauty of vocal imperfection? Can a technically perfect vocal ever be as emotionally powerful as a raw one? Are the moments where a singer's voice breaks the most honest moments in a song? Number 2, how can a song embody an entire era? Suspicious Minds was released in the late summer of 1969. It hit number 1 in the United States on November 1st, 1969. The year 1969 was a pivotal moment in cultural history. It was the year of the Woodstock Festival, the moon landing, and the Manson murders. It was a time of immense social change and upheaval. The song, while lyrically about a personal relationship, seems to capture the spirit of the age. There was a pervasive sense of paranoia and mistrust in the country, fueled by the Vietnam War and political turmoil. The song's theme of being caught in a trap resonated on a much larger societal level. The musical arrangement also reflects the end of the decade zeitgeist. It's big, dramatic, and a little over the top. It has the swagger of an era about to end. The fusion of rock, soul, pop, and orchestral elements is a hallmark of the late 1960s, a time when musical genres were bleeding into one another. The song doesn't sound like early 60s pop or mid 70s rock. It is a perfect sonic snapshot of 1969. Its technical complexity, its emotional intensity, and its epic scale all feel like a fitting soundtrack for a world in transition. It is the last number one hit of the 1960s for Elvis, and in many ways, it feels like a grand finale for the decade itself. Is it possible for a song to absorb the feeling of its time, or do we simply project our historical knowledge onto it? What other songs perfectly capture the sound and feeling of a single year? If Suspicious Minds had been released in 1975, would it have the same cultural weight? Number 1. What happens when every element is essential? We have looked at 19 different technical reasons why Suspicious Minds is a masterpiece. We've discussed the song structure, the production choices, the individual performances, the vocal arrangements, the historical context, and the lyrical theme. But the ultimate reason for its greatness is that all of these elements work together in perfect harmony. If you remove any single one of them, the entire structure crumbles. Take away the time signature change, and you lose the song's dynamic heart. Take away the false fade out, and you lose its most memorable hook. Take away Tommy Cogbill's bass line, and you lose its propulsive drive. Take away Glenn Spreen's arrangement, and you lose its epic scale. Take away Elvis's desperate, vulnerable vocal, and you lose its soul. The song is a perfect machine. Every gear, every cog, every wire is essential to its operation. It represents a rare moment in music history where the right singer, the right song, the right producer, and the right band all came together in the right studio at the right time. This convergence is what creates a masterpiece. It's not one thing, it's everything. It's a testament to the collaborative art of record making. It's a 3.5-minute symphony of paranoia and passion, a technical marvel that feels effortlessly, breathtakingly human. Can perfection in art ever be truly planned, or is it always the result of a happy accident? Are there any other songs where every single technical element is as crucial and as perfectly executed? After breaking a song down into its component parts, can we ever hear it the same way again, or is the magic lost forever?